we didn't know that we would be in this global pandemic when you joined us, right? Or when
That's
you
right.
chose to join us. And what an opportune time as you're seeing nurses and people in the medical profession just innovating more than we've ever seen before. So I'm super excited. This is super timely. And so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And, we didn't anticipate a crisis, so it's unfortunate that it is going on. But I thank you for encouraging me to press ahead with the interview. And it is a great time because there's so many nurses paying attention now and thinking about what they do want to do or don't want to do in their career. And there's never a better time like the present to engage into innovation. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. So Brian, go ahead and introduce yourself to the tribe and just tell us a little bit about your background and who you are.
Okay. My name is Brian Mojica. I am a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for almost 4 years, and I am the CEO and inventor of Cathwear. It's a medical underwear designed for patients that require the use of leg bags. We'll get into that a little later. I also have a background and a degree in radiology, which I got before I got my 4-year nursing degree. And it's been a long road in the medical field. I was in the military, U.S. Air Force. After the U.S. Air Force, I went into school for phlebotomy, and then I was a medical assistant. And then I got my degree in radiology and then nursing. So I really just kept working my way up through the ranks, until I got to the nursing position that I'm in now. And I do currently work as a nurse, as a visiting nurse as well.
Awesome. That's so great. Hey, thanks for your service in our military.
Yes, ma'am.
So when did you decide that you had a passion for ingenuity and innovation within medicine?
Well, this is my favorite part of the interview. I know a lot of people want to hear about the success of Cathwear and things of the sort, but I believe that, and it's unfortunate, but I believe that we identify more with one another through our failures. And I want to share a failure that I had, one of the many that I've had in my life, but this one is professionally related. And I want to share with everyone to really encourage people to not let this happen to you. So my son, our son, when he was 2 months old, his nasal passage was blocked. And at night, it just sounded like he was going to stop sleeping. We actually thought that he was going to die. So we couldn't sleep at night. And the little maternity, the suction bulb thing that they give you, it wasn't enough. And it just sounded like he needed to blow his nose. And I ended up going into the operating room and I got a yank hour and I cut a long piece of tubing. And I went home and I ended up putting one end of the yank hour on one side of his nose because it has like a bulb at the end of it. Yeah. And since his nose is so small, the opening is so small, I can just place it right at the end. And then I was blocking the other side and I would suck the mucus out into the tube with my mouth. But I cut the tubing really long so that the mucus wouldn't go in my mouth. It would just get trapped in the distal portion of the tubing. And it worked. He slept like a baby, pun intended. And after I would use it, I would go into the bathroom and I just rinse it out with salt water. And we just kept using it every time he needed it. So I wanted to put a motor on the end of it in order to create a suction, like when you go to the dentist or when you're in the operating room. So what I started doing was I made one of the biggest mistakes of innovation, which is asking people what they thought about it. So I started asking the people that were in my life at that time what they thought about it, and people were making fun of me. So then, but I knew I was onto something. So I went and I spoke to our son's pediatrician, and she was like, oh, it's going to cost thousands of dollars and it's going to take years and years for you to get it approved through the FDA, and it's by the nose. So it's going to go up to the brain and it's not a good idea. And in my head, I'm saying, no, but it's not going to go in the brain. It's not even going to go in the nose, right? Because it sits outside. Yeah. And, and getting a patent, and you don't want to do that. And it's a great idea, but just move ahead. You don't want to get involved in that. So a couple of years after that, somebody sent me a picture and it's being sold in Walmart and Target. And somebody invented it after I did because they didn't quit like I did. And the reason why I quit was because, and I get it, we want to show people, we kind of want to get approval from our colleagues, our friends and family, but it's not necessary when you know through your nursing practice that you have something that is beneficial for patient care and improving quality of life. So I wanted to share that failure with you to encourage anyone that has an innovation to not rely on what you hear, but use your clinical evidence-based practice to know that it's going to be successful.
Absolutely. I love that lesson. You can apply that to anything in life, whether it's your desire to become a nurse and people telling you, oh, do you really want to do that? You're putting yourself at risk, or whatever it is. If you have a desire to do something, put one foot in front of the other and do it, no matter what anybody else is saying.
Yeah, and that's good too. That's true. We at Cathware, that's one of our unwritten policies is we just do the next step. My business partner, he has his master's in business. I don't want anything to do with business. I want to stay on the clinical side of it, which is why Cathware took some time to get started. And we'll get into that later on about building a team and things like that. But my business partner, he always has said that a lot of people fail because they don't want to do the next step. And it's hard, right? Because you want to kind of plan everything out. You're like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do that. But in reality, you can only do the next step. So that's what we always do. We always just try to do the next step. I mean, mind you, when you do that one step, you still have 10 other ones. But that thought process of one task at a time is really the way, because it's a marathon. When I got the idea for Cathware, it was in 2012. So 8 years passed and I still haven't been able to make a personal profit off of it to buy myself coffee yet. So, when in 2012, if somebody would have said to me, hey, it's going to be 8 years and you're still going to not have finances going into your own bank account from it, I wouldn't have believed it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So you keep saying the next step. So someone decides that they've got this fancy new mask. I'm just going to make it applicable for our current circumstance. They've got this new reusable N95 mask and they want to put it on the shelves. They want to make it available to us as healthcare providers. You keep saying, what's the next step? How do we know? Where do I get this next step?
That's great. That's a great question. Outside of Cathware, I also have another invention that I patented and I licensed it off. So this question is something that I love to answer because it's what we need to know, right? It's the way to go about it is like for Cathware, for me, just to kind of back up a little bit, how I got to the point of Cathware. I was working in the operating room. Well, first of all, as nurses, that's why nursing is such a special career field, because we're so close to the patients. Now, I'm not discrediting anything that the doctors do because that would be unprofessional of me to do that. But what they do is what they do. Then what we do is something completely different that they can't do, which is why we work so well together, doctors and nurses. But we have the benefit that we're so close to patients. Our intimate relationship with patients makes us the best innovators because we see the things that they're struggling with at home. So a patient came into the interventional radiology suite and he took his pants down. And when I came around the corner into the room, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, gave me a vision for Cathware. I saw that he had bilateral nephrostomy tubes and I saw that they were taped around his leg. Mm-hmm. And when I went in, I had a vision of Cathware. And when I saw it, I went home. So this is to answer your question directly. I was in the military, so I have a high attention to detail. So I drew pictures of it. I drew what I saw and I drew different angles. Like I drew one head on, and then I drew one at a 45-degree angle. And then I drew another one at a 90-degree angle because I wanted to try to piece it together in my head. Okay. Then I went to Walmart and I bought medical, like biker shorts, like men's boxer briefs that were a little longer down the thigh. And I went to the arts and crafts store and bought material and bought Velcro and bought all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then my stepmom was making us prototypes from our kitchen table for years that we were giving to patients and getting feedback. So what I suggest is if you have a vision or an idea is to always get it down on paper. And I learned that if you can build a prototype, it has a higher success rate it has a higher chance of being successful because think about it. You're trying to sell something but you can't build it yourself. And you're telling somebody, no, 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 I have a great idea, but just you build it. And
Yeah.
nobody wants to do that, right? Because we're lazy, starting with myself. Nobody wants to really take the time to do that. But if you can show that, it doesn't even have to be a working prototype. The first cathware was not wearable. It was just something that we put on a mannequin. But if you can make it and you can build it and then show the features of it, even though it's a non-functioning prototype, that's going to give you the greater chance of success. In cathware, it was a vision that God gave me, and I know that it was God because it's so far advanced from anything that is out on the market. We're from Boston, and we've met a lot of doctors from Harvard that have PhDs, and they're like, man, why didn't I think of that? And that's how I know I didn't do it on my own. And obviously cathware, the way that cathware looks right now is not what I saw in the operating room, because once I started building it, then that's where your professional career comes into play, and you're like, no, well, this needs to sit here because patients do this and this and that. So then it starts to evolve. I presented it to a business partner of mine, and he added a couple of features. Then he gave it back to me, and I added a couple of features, and then we just went back and forth. So I know I was a little long-winded there, but draw it and build it.
Okay, good. And I love that you gave it to your patients for feedback, because they're the ones utilizing it. And so they're going to have different fine-tuning implementation for you as the designer.
Absolutely. I see that there's a question there as well, but that was important. And that was something that even though we were giving it to patients, I never wore cathware myself. And that was something that I didn't do after years and years of giving them to patients. And that's something I wish I can have back, because once I wore it, I noticed that there was a lot of other things, just a centimeter here or there, that I could have fixed. So that was something that was lazy on my part, and it was suggested to me, and I still didn't listen. So you're going to make mistakes along the way, and that's really that's really what it's all about. Somebody asked, why do we first show? Who do we first show our prototypes to? You should always show it to an attorney first, because sometimes people want to wait until it's fully patented or you're patent pending, and you actually don't. You are protected from the date that the attorney files, which could be 2 weeks or a month. It's kind of like when you go to the market basket or food shopping and you get the ticket to buy your ham and cheese, right? It's like you're in line already. And what I did is I waited. We ended up getting it patented in less than a year. But my other patent, I waited 2 weeks until the attorney had finished the drawings, finished the paperwork, and then he filed it. Once he filed it, not cathware, another one, then that's when I started shopping it around, and I was able to sell the idea. So I'm just getting it to a patent attorney, and there's local patent attorneys. Always support your local businesses. Somebody that's down the street from you is better than going for somebody in another state, because you can go down to their office. Just Google patent attorneys near me. You can go to their office. You can show them your prototype. You can show them how it works, and you have to be a master at selling your own idea. Nobody can pitch it but you.
Because you have the passion there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And not only the passion, but also the knowledge. Like, we're an extremely small company. We've just launched 7 months ago, and I'm the nurse on staff, and in a sense, and nobody can pitch cathware to the extent that I can. I can show somebody, and I can grab a nurse that has 100 PhDs, but it's your vision. And I know that that's something that we're going to talk about later on, but I just want to encourage everyone to know, like, I'm the catalyst of cathware. I'm the one that has to, get up early every day. And I'm the one that has to be calling on leads. And I have to be the one pushing. My business partners are there to support me, but they're only going to go as fast as I'm going. I think a lot of times we get a vision, and then it's like, all right, well, I presented it to so-and-so, and now so-and-so hasn't called me for 3 weeks, so I'm done. No, you got to be the one. You got to get on the phone with them.
Absolutely. So, Selah says that she's loving this, right? But what are the top 3 challenges that you're facing throughout this process?
Sorry. The challenges that are faced throughout this process is knowing that it's going to take time. Everything, when I first invented Cathware, people, and we got it patented, there were people that were like, "Hey, you're rich now. You don't have to work," And I'm like, good thing I didn't listen to anybody, because 8 years later, I haven't, bought a coffee yet.
Yeah.
And every change took time. Like every centimeter that we wanted to change, like when we had every time my stepmom built us a prototype, we would send one to a different manufacturer. So we had sent out like maybe 13, 15 manufacturers across the earth. And every time we got one back, it was like, we kind of like this, but not this. All right, let's put this in a database, and then the next one, and then the next one. But each time it just took time. Then when we found one that we liked and they didn't make it the right way, we'd have to send it back to them. And then we would have to wait 30 days to get it back, because, mail delivery time, and then to get onto their production line and things like that. So that's really one of the challenges, is the time. And I'm still working, and I have a family. So it's really balancing that stuff out. I mean, I'm either not working on my dream, or not working on my family, or not working on my career. Like something, you get 24 hours a day. Everybody, even the president, of 24 hours a day. And I think a lot of times that's a big struggle, especially now that Cathware is starting to take off. A lot of nurses have reached out to us, are sending us patients. A lot of doctors are reaching out to us. So when my phone rings, right, because I'm so hungry now, like I'm starting to gain traction. When my phone rings, and I'm with my family, I want to take that call. So it's finding that balance. The other day we went out to dinner with my wife and some friends. And when we got there, my wife was like, "Give me your phone." And that's when I knew that I was in the deep end, because anytime I want to try to answer the lead. So that's one of the things that I feel like is a very big challenge, is the time waiting within projects and milestones, and time balancing with family and business.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that firsthand myself. So, how do you overcome these personal obstacles, the negativity, or whatever other personal obstacles? The failed, well, not necessarily failed. You didn't fail at the first innovation that you didn't proceed with. You just stopped. Anyway, how do you overcome these? How would you speak to those who are interested in doing this, in overcoming that?
To be self-motivated it's something you can't teach. That you can't teach somebody. It's kind of like being in nursing school, right? Like there were some people, not everybody's a nurse. Why? Right? Because nobody wants to sit there and go through a care plan. Nobody wants to sit there and go through 12 hours a day clinical. You know what I mean? There's something that people don't want to do. So it comes in innovation. It comes down to, think of everything you don't want to do. That's what you have to do to be an innovator. I hate calling on doctors' offices. I hate calling other nurses, because I sound like a salesman. You know what I mean? And I'm not. Once a nurse, you're always a nurse. I'm a nurse. It just so happens that I'm trying. I have to grow this product. So that's one of the things that really is a struggle. So that's what you have to overcome, is that you have to do things that you don't want to do. There's some nurses that, sometimes on certain calls, I always lead with, "I'm a registered nurse and I wanted to talk to you about a product that I have that I think will improve your patient's quality of life," because I need to speak on the nurse's same terminology in order to break that barrier. So I don't want to make phone calls. I don't want to do certain things. I don't want to go to the post office every day to ship packages. I don't want to make print labels. I don't want to go to meetings and stuff like that. But you have to do it, and it's fun. It's fun in the journey, and that's what I've learned, is that it's in the journey. That's where really the growth is. I've certainly grown a lot as a businessman. I've grown a lot as a nurse by prioritizing a lot of my patient needs, and also using what I learned in nursing school about prioritizing in my company.
So Christy has a question. Where do we even get started? Through the years, we've had great ideas. Christy, you can tune in, assuming that you tuned in a little bit later. He talked about that and what the first step is in drawing your invention and then getting a prototype. Brian, what's next? After you get the drawing and the prototype, you're calling who?
That's good. That's a great question. You get the drawing, you get the prototype, you file for a patent. And the thing is, too, you have to do some research, right? Because you don't know if what you've invented, other people have invented it.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I had no idea that there were any other products. And it didn't even occur to me to Google anything. I just drew it. I built, because I was naive. I didn't know. I was like inventor. I always thought an inventor was only a scientist or somebody, that was uber smart or whatever. But really, an inventor is somebody that wants to do the next step. So once I applied for the patent, and then we won first place in an invention contest. We won first place in 2 invention contests in Boston. We met. We were entered into this like accelerator program where they teach you how to be a business owner and how to set up a business plan. That's when I knew I didn't want to open a business, because I never wanted to leave the clinical side. And those are things that you have to set up. And one of the attorneys had told us, not to license it right away and to research other products. So I would Google and I would leg bag holder, and nothing would really come up until I ran into our business partner, our CFO, and he was a childhood friend. He is a childhood friend. He has his degree in math. He has his master's degree in business. When we presented it to him, we wanted him to do all the business side of it. I didn't want to do anything business related because I wanted to hire my weaknesses. And I know we'll talk about that when we talk about building a team. He took 2 days and researched all of the leg bag holders or anything leg bag associated with it. And actually what he tried to do was to debunk it. He was like, there's no way that this doesn't exist. Like somebody, and he has no medical background, which was a huge plus because he's looking at it with a different eye. So he Googled all of these supplies, all of these other products. And we realized that all of the other products are all encompassed into Cathware. It's almost like if somebody looked at all of the other products that help manage the leg bag from sliding up and down and then made Cathware. Again, from God, but for anybody else, you want to research it first. If you have a pen that holds a flashlight, Google pens that hold flashlights. Start to Google as much as you can and go down to the bottom of Google. 98% of people don't go to page 2 on a Google search. So make sure you're going to page 2, page 3, and try different wording, pen, flashlight pen, and things like that. So you definitely have to do some research before you start to invest any money. So drawing, prototype. And while you're doing all of that, a lot of research, because when you present it to the patent attorney, he's going to do it. So he's going to do a patent search for something similar. And once you pay the attorney for the fee, if he finds something else that will become a patent infringement, you end up losing the money. He's not going to give you the money back. So you kind of want to try to do it yourself. So it's blind, but it's not as blind.
Sure. How do you financially support the advertising and promotion of the building of sample prototypes from different manufacturers? That's from Selah.
How do you financially support it? You don't, because we're broke. So we did it. Everybody went half. And we went from our own paychecks. And when I went to, literally down to the penny. If I went to Walmart, we had, group chats, or we would talk or hang out, and I tally everything up and I'd say, okay, I bought, underwear and Velcro and a sewing machine, for example. And then we would just go half on it. And we just did that over and over and over again so that nobody was shouldering the burden throughout the process. And when I mean we, I just mean me and the co-inventor for Cathware, Hector Arce. And we did that for years. Anything that we needed from a patent attorney, we had to pay. We went half for it. Once we opened the business, Then that became a little different because then there were business loans and things that we got. But getting brochures, we went half. When we were going to an invention contest, we'd go half on gas. We're taking your car this time. We're taking your car this time. So, which is one of the benefits. We grew up extremely poor. So I know how to eat ramen noodles and how to get around a couple of things to make ends meet. And I certainly
Amen.
applied that to Cathware to get out of the gate.
Absolutely. Christy asks, is there a website to file for your patent?
Well, there's the United States Patent and Trademark Office, but I wouldn't do that way. Maybe you know something that I don't. I like to go to the specialists. I like to go to the people that, it's kind of like people that go to WebMD to find out the symptoms that they have, and all of a sudden they become a nurse or a doctor, and you're like, no, that's not the way it works. So we have to be careful about trying to save money, cutting corners. Well, anything you do cheap, when you buy cheap, you buy twice. I think it's better to go to a patent attorney. The Cathware, the medical underwear designed for patients with leg bags, we went through InventHelp, and that was not a good decision. It cost us $15,000 total between me and my first business partner. We paid it monthly. We got it as low as possible. I think it was maybe like $200-300, and we paid $150 a month for it. A piece, and they helped us with some research and with some marketing, and they did what they did. But my second invention, which was a surgical clip to be used in the interventional radiology suite for the guide wires during the procedures, I wanted to do that one different. I went directly, I drew it, I built some prototypes, and I went directly to the patent attorney that I had met through Cathware, and that one cost me $2,500. I think it was actually $2,400, and I gave him half up front, and then I waited a couple of weeks until it was filed, and then I paid him the rest. So it's not a lot of money. It's a lot of $2,400. A lot of money when it's for your dream. Like we spend so much money on senseless things. And this is something that I really use as motivation. There's patients that need your invention. Mm-hmm. Think of the patients that need your invention. $2,400 is not a lot.
Yeah, and I'll add to that is that the language in a patent can make a huge difference. So I'm just going to use Brian's leg bag, for example. If the leg bag strap has a patent, we've seen those in the hospital setting. They're awful. They don't work well. They fall down. They pull on the catheter, all of these things, right? Well, you
just did my pitch.
What's that?
You just did my pitch.
Sorry.
No. I'm saying, thank you.
Yeah, that's true. We've experienced it. So, you search that. Okay, you decide as the nurse that you're going to create something better. So you go in and you see the leg bag strap. You have to find their patent, and you can do that on your own. But then the wording, you reading through that wording is like speaking a different language. So like Brian said, you definitely want to go to the experts. You want to go to an attorney that specializes in patents, yeah. And that's all they do, because they're going to take a lot of that legwork off of you. Reading through that gargle is seriously, it's overwhelming, and you don't know what verbiage in there they've used that would totally debunk your invention. So you just have to tweak it just ever so slightly so that you're not infringing on their patent, and they're the experts in that, which makes it so much easier for you. You're not doing extra work, I guess, is the moral of the story.
That's a great point. Yeah, they'll find the wording to help you not infringe, or even help you by telling you what to change on your on your.
Well worth the $2,400.
Yeah, it's like giving a family, a non-nurse, a doctor's order or a patient's history, and telling them, what do you see here? Like, what do you mean? What do I see here? But where you give it to a nurse, we'd be like, oh, yep, this, and this. Here you go. And it's worth it because you want it done right, and you also want your invention protected, because they have to, when you pitch your invention to the patent attorney, they make your patent based on your pitch and talking about each feature, like, this little button here does this for this. This little button here does this for this. This zipper does this for this. So he puts that in the patent so somebody else can't come behind. That's how I designed Cathware. That's why we designed it for patients that have nephrostomy tubes, biliary drains, suprapubic, and Foley, because I didn't want somebody to come after me and add another drain that I didn't think of, and then it's their own invention. So we encompassed cathware it's covered through Medicare as well, and we did that so that nobody could come up from behind, like I said.
I love that. So you kind of mentioned this, and I'll just go over it. I'll just ask the question because we have a lot of people interested. And so, you know, you and I aren't alone in this inventor space. There's so many nurses out there. And I just wanted you guys to know that the crash cart was invented by a nurse. Billy lights, invented by a nurse. Labels that go on like ICU drips, the colored labels that the ICU nurse and us love, invented by a nurse.
Nurses, man, it's where it's at. It's where it's at.
You, we are an amazing group of people. I mean, I'm not saying that because we're nurses, but really, like, if you look at nurses as a whole,
because we're so close to them.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But I do want to know, from your perspective, do you feel like the inventor side of you as a nurse is a high stress environment?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
It's a high level of acuity to it, right? It's not stressful because I want to be here. It's like in high school, right? I hated high school. I hated biology. Now I have 2 science degrees. You know what I mean? Like, but why though? Because in high school, I was forced to be there. I didn't want to be there. Like, I wanted to be doing something else. But here, like in nursing school and in radiology school, I wanted to be there. So I graduated in the top of my class in both degrees. So I want to be an inventor. Like, I want to help patients. I want to help patients that are struggling with the use of wearing leg bags, from the bag sliding up and down the leg, from the plastic to skin creating sweat points, from the Velcro strap rubbing on the skin, putting the patient at risk of infection, not wearing shorts, not wearing a skirt, not wearing a dress, having to wear long pants in warm weather. You know, I want to do that. So that makes it not stressful. It makes it fun because I want to be here. I want to grow this company. It's a passion. It's a desire to help patients, which that's why we're nurses.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think it's a high level of stress. I think it's a high level of prioritization and a high level of just acuity, just really, I mean, balancing spending time with my kids. Like, that's really what it comes down to, you know, and obviously everything at some point becomes stressful, right? You know, there's nothing that I can think of necessarily that you're passionate about, that there's a moment of growth where there's not some stress associated with it. But I just try to stay positive and not really look at it as stress.
Yeah. And you know, you're learning so many different things that if someone would have told you this is how you're going to use your nursing degree when you first obtained your nursing degree, you would probably laugh and be like, why would I do that? You know, but now you're learning all these different facets in order
and there's
to
such a big push. There's such a big push right now, like the year of the nurse. And I know it's horrible what's happening with the pandemic. And I say this with all respect to anybody that's been hurt by this, but what a greater time than to show what we can do for the year of the nurse in the middle of a pandemic. Absolutely. You know, and there's such a push for nursing innovations now. It's us. We are the ones, and I hope that when I'm in a hospital bed, I hope that when I'm retired, that we're pushing other future nurses with this wave of innovations so that the other generations of nurses, they have big shoes to fill, because I want to make sure that when I'm laying in a hospital bed, that there's a nurse that didn't quit because their invention is going to help me.
Absolutely. I love that. Y'all, Florence would be so proud of the year she designated as 2020, the year of the nurse, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell us what the main characteristics that you see that makes a nurse innovator successful. What are the 3 characteristics? If you said, in order to be a good nurse innovator, you should have these 3 characteristics, what would those be?
Passion. Everything that you do in life, you have to be passionate about it. You have to be driven. And the difference between that, you can be passionate and have no focus. You can be passionate and not have a plan. So you have to be passionate and you have to be driven, because you are the one that is driving this idea. You're the one that has to generate the business. You have to generate the excitement of it. You have to generate the growth, and also building the right team around you. And I can't emphasize enough on, it's not all peaches and cream, right? At Cathware, nothing in life is peaches and cream, and everything has its pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to do anything business related. And I have no experience with online marketing, retail, anything.
Yeah.
Even, outside of just, I just got on social media, I think maybe 3 years ago, outside of just your regular post, And so what I did was I hired my weaknesses and I rely on them. I think sometimes we have this ego issue, right? That we have to surrender that. So passion, being driven, but I want to highlight this third one about building the right team if I have a few minutes to do it. I didn't know how to do online marketing. So I hired somebody that is a millennialist that buys everything on Amazon. And all he kept saying was, and he's an investor. So he's an investor, and he started investing his time, no pun intended, in Cathware. And he was like, listen, this has to be on Amazon. And I was like, Amazon? Like, we already have a website. Why do we need Amazon? He's like, Brian, everybody buys on Amazon. I said, you know what? Just take it over. He got us on Amazon. He put pictures. He put the wording. He set it up. He started tweaking it. He's like, Brian, he said, I buy everything on Amazon. My generation, we go to the mall. You know what I mean? So I hired him because I didn't know what I was doing. And he set all that up. Now in Amazon, we're almost doubling every month since we launched in October. We sold 19 in October of last year, and we sold 200 in the past month in March. And thank you. And it's an algorithm to that. Mm-hmm. My business partner, I have a saying that I do the hunting and he does the cooking, right? I can't cook and he can't hunt, right? So together we work together. He has no nursing background, so he can't speak to the doctors. He can't speak to the nurses. He's not speaking to any durable medical equipment facilities. So I'm the one that's doing that. I'm going out and I'm making those sales calls, and I'm the one that's drumming up that business. But I don't know how to close a deal. I don't know how to negotiate a deal properly, and I don't want to. I know a little bit, but I don't want to. I'm comfortable not knowing. So that's why the third, out of the three things that you mentioned, building a team is so critical. And business-minded people, I learned this the hard way. They're not like us nurses. Nurses are highly emotional. Like we'll cry at the drop of a hat. Like we cry at movies. Like we're crying with patients. We're praying with patients. We're really involved in their lives. But my business partner, he's not emotional at all. He's black and white. Like I love to give out free samples to patients that call and that can't really afford it. Like I love to just help because that's what we do as nurses. He doesn't like that. He's like, how are we going to run a business doing this? And Brian, were you going to put us at a loss? So it's a balance that I need, and they really help a nurse become successful. A business-minded person and a nurse can work extremely well together because of the balance that they have. We always have a joke that if it was up to me, I'd give it all for free, and the company would go into the tubes, down the tubes. And the joke on him is if it was up to him, we wouldn't have any type of growth because he'd want to charge $100 per underwear, And so that's it's necessary to know what you're not good at and be okay that you're not good at it, and then hire somebody that wants to do that. Like Edwin loves business. He loves negotiating contracts. There's a lot of times where I'll develop a lead and I'm the one talking and pitching, and the next thing you know, I'm just in the back, on Zoom like this, and he's doing the rest of it. I'm not talking anymore. And the same way I get excited over clinical stuff, he gets excited over the business side and contracts and things like that. Inventory, how much money is in, how much money is out, signing loans and all that stuff. That's important for a nurse.
Well, before we drag this out too much longer, you need to show us Cathware. I'm going to take myself off the screen so that you can have mine. I want to hear your pitch.
Yes, I will. I'm gonna show you right now. So Cathware Let me see. I got to bend this down just a little. So cathware is designed for a patient. Give me 1 second. I just have to grab. So patients that require the use of leg bags, right? So as we all know, patient has a leg bag and they have these straps. The strap goes around the patient leg, but this creates friction on the patient's skin. So this increases the patient's risk of infection. Also, it can put the patient at risk for DVTs because the patients are over tightening this because all they want to do is get this bag to stop sliding up and down the leg. They're not thinking what we're thinking, which is that it's going to cut off circulation. So they can't wear skirt, can't wear dress, can't wear shorts in the warm weather. So what cathware does, and I will tuck this in. So what cathware does, it has a pouch right here that the patients can place the bag in, and they no longer need the Velcro strap because the bag goes right into the pouch. Now they can connect the leg bag, they can connect it to the opening right here that I made. I don't know how well you can see it because it's all black, but you can connect the suprapubic tube, you run it down into the catheter channel tract, and then you plug it right into the leg bag. If you have a Foley, you can bring the Foley right out and you bring it right into the leg bag. If you have a biliary drain, you bring the bag right down in through the catheter channel tract and you put it right into the leg bag. And the way that cathware is used in order to decrease the infection rate, because you don't want to be disconnecting the drain from the bag, is you roll up the bag and you put it right through and you drop it right down into the pocket and then you open it back up. So it has an opening right here, a Velcro tab in the middle for any patients that have any osteo or rheumatoid arthritis so that they can bring one bag down on the other side. Sometimes patients have two drains in the liver, right? So they'll be able to bring one bag down here and then one bag and bring it down on the other side. Sometimes they have two drains in one kidney. So they'll bring one down right in this side and then one down right into the other side over here. It's washable, it's durable, and it's covered through Medicare. Its patients can get multiple pairs. I think Medicare said they would cover up to 4 units a month, about 12 a quarter. It's $39.99 retail. It's on Amazon, and it's also on our website at cathware.com. Cathware.com is our preferred method of dealing with the patients because we can track them easier. Amazon is just kind of into the wild west of the internet. We also have a sale for 3 for $99.99, which drops each one at $33. If you want to write a script for it, we don't process the script ourselves. We would have to get onto the shelves at your local durable medical equipment facility where you send your patients now to get their leg bag supplies. And then we would work directly with them.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So is that your current, well, that kind of goes into my next question. What are you most excited about in this next step or in advancing in this part of your career? I assume in this part of your career, but getting into like durable medical supply chains, is that the next step?
Yeah, so our goal is to work with companies like Medline, Byram Healthcare, Cardinal Health, Edge Park. We found that it's easier to deal with the patients at first, right? We did the business plan and we're like, yeah, we're going to sell it to doctors. And doctors are going to love it and they're going to put it on their shelves. And you know what? That's what the business plan is for, right? Is to then tweak it later on. So we found out that doctors don't want to put it on their shelves. They don't want to operate as a durable medical equipment facility, which that's what they would be if they sold cathware. So what they like to do is they say, well, I won't keep it, but I'll tell my local DME and you can put it on his shelf and I can just send the patients there. Yeah, go to XYZ pharmacy and tell them to give you a cathware. Here's a script. We found a lot of success that way, and selling directly to patients online. And really what it comes down to is to any nurse that's listening is how can we work together to help the patients that that are struggling with the use of leg bags, because you can't unsee innovation, right? We have an obligation. You can't, like now when you see a patient that is wearing a leg bag, and you already know that cathware exists, we almost have an obligation to show them, listen, there's something else, because that's what our job is as nurses, is to bring the patients the latest innovation.
That's so cool. I love that we've chatted today. I love hearing all of the obstacles that you've overcome to get to where you're at right now, which is the place where you can really help the patients, right?
Thank you.
Any last words of advice before we let you go?
Yeah, so I don't know how good you could see the display because it was all black, but I just would ask that you go to our website, cathware.com, like catheter and underwear, and you'll be able to get a better image of the innovative design, and there's tutorial videos there as well. But to answer your question directly, I want to let whoever's listening that has an idea and thinks it's not going to work, don't quit. Don't quit. Even if it doesn't work, like, don't you want to know? Don't you want to know that it really doesn't work versus just throwing it on the shelf? I invented something and I gave up because I listened to everybody. You are the one that's been given the vision. You are the nurse. You are the one that has the drive. Don't quit. Don't quit. Just do the next step. Like Cheryl said, do the next step, and you'll see that once you build a team, and the next step, either you do it or somebody else does it. Lastly, I want to say I've been meeting a lot of nurses since I got on LinkedIn about maybe 7-8 months ago. And I've learned that a lot of nurses have a misconception on what it's going to take. This one nurse in particular had a really great idea. And I said, well, what are you doing with it? And she's like, well, nothing right now because I don't have anybody to help me. And I said, well, I think that's not something that you can open a business for. That's something that you license it, which means you have an idea and you sell it to somebody. And the nurse responded and said, I'm not going to let somebody make millions off of my idea while I make pennies. And that is a huge misconception, because I asked her, well, how much are you making right now off of it? And she said 0. So I said, that's pride. So you'd rather make $0 instead of selling it so that patients can be helped by your invention. And then you make some money off of it to maybe live a little easier. Are you going to be buying a yacht? No. But you're going to throw your hat in the ring for innovation. You're going to be helping patients, and you're going to get a kickback from it. I mean, and there's ways around that, because a company will always want a nurse associated with it, because nurses validate innovations.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, another nurse that I met, and this will be the last that I have to say, but another nurse that I met has a company and is successful, and didn't want to hire somebody because she didn't want to give up a piece of her company. You're going to have to give up a piece of the company because you don't have any money. So if you don't have money, you have to give up the company, one or the other. And that person is not really working for free. They're working for their percentage, so that when you do sell the company, then they'll take what they own. And the lady was overwhelmed. She was overwhelmed, and her company was starting to die down. She ended up hiring somebody to help her with the financial aspect of it, and now her company's growing. So
that's awesome. It sounds like you're being really helpful to others who want to be innovators as well, which is amazing. So I appreciate the way you're using your time and your resources. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for tuning in, Tribe.
Bye, everyone.